Good day. I'm H. Robert Silverstein, MD, for the Preventive Medicine Center and West Hartford Cable Access TV. It's summer, finally. Thank goodness. We had a rather long and cold springtime. Call it winter spring, but I honestly believe summer is here now. Of course, summer officially starts June 21st, my mother's birthday. God rest her soul. And I just want to say happy summer vacation. You know, I like to spot patterns. Usually when Memorial Day comes along, traffic thins out. This year that has not happened, at least not completely and universally. Today I went into Dunkin Donuts. Yes, don't have a fit. I went into Dunkin Donuts to get a cup of black coffee. Yes, 1 cup of coffee a day. Should I drink it? No, I shouldn't, but there are a few other things I do that are not exactly perfect, and judge not lest ye be judged. So anyhow, I went in there and there was nobody in there at a time when usually there's a lot more people in there. So Dunkin Donuts was following the pattern insight that I usually have, that at least West Hartford, and I sort of think many places, people start going on vacations right after Memorial Day and traffic does thin out. Plus, of course, there are no, are schools still in session? Well, whenever they get out, that'll add an extra addition of cleanliness, emptiness to the roads, at least around West Hartford. Now, I had a bunch of ideas on my mind today to talk about. Oh, I forgot the one I was going to bring in. There is a quinoa and brown rice packet that you can buy a box of called Seeds of Something, Seeds of Change, that's organic and is available at BJ's. At least that's where I get it. That is really quite good. Now, it's pre-cooked, so it's not ideal. But if you're going to think about having Cheerios with standard milk instead of this for breakfast, you would do better to have this. On the other hand, you've got to think about what has fewer or more calories. If you're interested in calories, then berries with a little rice milk and maybe 2 almonds and 2 walnuts would be the correct breakfast. As a matter of fact, I was participating on a blog yesterday called, what's he call himself? The Skeptical Cardiologist. Now, frankly, I like some of the stuff he writes. He wrote an interesting article, which was way over my head, about the music of John Lennon. So he must know a lot about music. He was talking about a particular chord that John Lennon introduced that apparently was new, or at least became popularized under John Lennon, and I had no idea. But you know, there's a lot of atonal music, as there always has been, and I believe that chord was an atonal chord. One of the things I say about a lot of the music I listen to is it's musical notes or instruments in search of a melody. I listen to a lot of music and the word cacophony comes to my mind. Some of it is reasonably well done. The Russians at the turn of the century, I can't think of his name, it's on the tip of my tongue, was Shostakovich. A lot of his music was atonal and sort of well done. It wasn't too much one way or the other. Now, today I have some things that I want to talk about. First thing that bothers me the most at the present time is the lack of decency of people. I am astounded at the amount of anger and not giving people the right to have their opinions or positions accepted with decency. There may be disagreements, but the amount of anger is over the top. Now, maybe that has to do with Republicans, Democrats, neither, society, economic stressors, simple evolution, the cataclysms in our society. I am not interested. I am interested in people being decent. There are rules of biology. In other words, what is it? Remember, I'm a physician. Yeah, I know, you didn't forget. There are rules of biology that determine whether or not we will or will not develop diseases. I'm not perfect and I'm not throwing a stone, but They are what we breathe. We're supposed to breathe clean air, so we should do what we can to make clean air, and of course come down on cigarettes and vaping. Now, vaping is better than cigarette smoking, but don't get the idea that vaping is good or acceptable. We need to avoid tobacco completely. Breathing, drinking. What are we supposed to drink? Well, you know, the body is flexible. Now it's going to sound like I'm offering excuses for my cup of coffee. No, I am not. But there is a tolerable level of all the things we should not do. Let's go back to breathing. What if you smoke 4 cigars a year? Do you think that would affect your health or longevity? My intuition tells me it would affect nothing, because it's so little over such a long period of time. Now, what if you smoke those 4 cigars in one day? That's a different ballgame. But the fact of the matter is, as a matter of fact, I did smoke a cigar once. It was in a contest, a cigar ash. It was about the length of the ashes. It was somewhere in Manchester. I got my picture in some kind of newspaper. I don't remember what it was, because I had this enormous ash, and I was going to win, and then it fell off, and I lost. But that was years and years and years ago. I got so sick from smoking that cigar. I got so sick. Anyhow, moving on. So breathing, there's a safe limit to the amount of pollutants in the air. There's a safe limit to the amount of smoke we're exposed to. What about a fireplace occasionally during the winter? What about a wood stove? Well, wood stoves are getting better, but the real idea is to have as clean air and clean water as possible. As a matter of fact, today I just read about an improved technique for purifying water that is photocatalytic. It uses ultraviolet light shined onto some kind of plate that has a catalyst on it, and it kills harmful bacteria, so that neither chlorine nor ozone are necessary for the process, which are environmentally and physically unhealthy to begin with. So there are continuously better and better ways of doing things. Change the subject and keep it the same. Energy. This wind and solar energy is very expensive. Very expensive. And if you don't mind paying more for your electricity, then you want to support wind, solar, hydro, whatever. I'm not saying that it isn't cleaner, but it's actually not cleaner because of the building process and the fact that we already have other methods inline, online, and so on. Am I against solar? I am against the waste of money, which brings me to politics in general. The do-nothing Congress and the way politics are run here in Connecticut, and I would have to say probably in West Hartford too, people talk about leaving Connecticut, and of course this is the greatest nation. I love Connecticut, it's beautiful, and you may say, well, there's a price to everything. Okay, I accept that. It just seems to me it's not being done correctly or efficiently, and I hold our current politicians responsible. But if you don't mind paying more for your taxes, even though I mind paying more for my taxes, then you are free to continue to vote as you have voted. Breathe, drink, eat. The human mouth is that of a vegan vegetarian, like a horse or a cow or a goat or a chimpanzee or a gorilla. That is not the mouth of a dog or a cat or a lion or a tiger or a crocodile. All those things have fangs and claws and a jaw that comes down like scissors. They don't have a salivary gland that has an enzyme for digesting plant food. By the way, plant food is the way you're so nicely able to say the word vegan. Vegan has become a dirty word. It's a correct idea. The human biology is essentially vegan. By the way, 50% lower carbon footprint by being vegan. So avoiding fish and chicken and turkey and meat and cheese and eggs and dairy products makes you much more eco-efficient. Ocasio-Cortez, I believe, is vegan, and I am impressed with the clarity of her skin as well as her low percent body fat. Some of her ideas, not so much, but on the other hand, she's interesting, and it's interesting to see her basically, her and her crew, run the Democratic Party. Nancy Pelosi, honest to goodness, that woman, every time she talks, and you may say, oh, well, look at how Trump talks. Yes, I agree. We live in a circus, an utter circus. But between the two, I find Pelosi far more ridiculous. just the way she says things, her word choice. But anyhow, that's for entertainment. But I wish they'd get something done in Congress, and nobody does get anything done in Congress. Congratulations to Trump for his handling of the Mexico southern border affair. He certainly got Mexico's attention, and we shall see how that works out. I shouldn't say congratulations. I will congratulate him if it's successful. In the meantime, it's an interesting idea. Only an idea. Now, breathe, drink, eat 90+% vegan. The human body is probably 100% vegan by design, but you can break the rules a little bit. What constitutes a bit? Well, I feel that there are 3 meals a day, 7 days in a week, 21 meals for the week. And you may say, well, I don't eat breakfast. Okay, fine. We're going to count it in there anyhow. What is your breakfast and lunch still becomes 3 a day. So 90% of 21 is 18 or 19. So 18 or 19 meals a week should be ideally for the preservation of your health, independence, lack of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, cancer of the pancreas, cancer of the colon, heart attack, stroke, angioplasty, open heart surgery, dementia. 90% organic, unprocessed, whole foods, vegan. Seeds of Change, that was the name of that product. That's a good product. It's not a great product because, as I already said, it's pre-cooked and many of the nutrients went out, but it's better for you than Cheerios or Sugar Flakes or caramelized whatever, and I'm definitely against. My intuition is dairy products are dangerous. That includes ice cream, that includes yogurt, and that includes, with a little question mark, kefir or kefir. That has caught my attention. There's an exception to every rule, and kefir or kefir might be it. Now, somebody asked me, well, what about goat cheese and what about goat milk? I don't really separate the two. I still think that they're not vegan for sure. They're not plant food for sure. So are they the exceptions to the rule? I said 18 to 19 meals a week. So that means 2 meals a week. You could have your wild-caught fish, free-range chicken, cage-free eggs, bison, buffalo. Got to change the subject and keep it the same. Last night I was watching some food channel, and it was about beer being manufactured, and then they showed all these restaurants that make beer, and then they serve these sandwiches, and I thought to myself, there can't be anything unhealthier. They had this pulled pork and this cream sauce and this cheese sauce and more cheese and more cream and more meat. And they had one hamburger that had a slab of fried cheese on it. The cheese was 1/2 inch thick, maybe thicker, 5/8 of an inch thick. A slab that sat right on top of the hamburger. I'm utterly amazed that you may say, well, those are the 2 meals a week. That's out partying and having fun once in a while. Folks, the reason I'm in business is because so many people are making so many mistakes. And it is free to choose, which I support. And I am not casting a stone at anyone. I am giving you my opinion. What is my opinion? H. Robert Silverstein, MD, cardiologist for almost 50 years with extensive experience, and you have to decide for yourself. Does he know what he's talking about, or is he over the hill, or has he gone batty or senile or whatever it is? By the way, I lost a hat and a cane. Oops, what's that say about me? Cane. That brings me to a brief discussion. In November 2017, I flew to Emory University, of which I'm a grad. That's where I did my cardiology with the world famous J. Willis Hurst. Halftime. Is it halftime? Is that right? Yeah, okay, fine. So I flew there November 17th and got caught in that horrible airport experience. But I had stem cells put in my left hip because I had microfractures in my left hip. A super physician, Ken Mautner, down there. By the way, I just sent another patient there, and I would tell you, he's a first-rate guy. And I would say it wrong to say he has a first-rate operation, but I will tell you the whole thing was as smooth as silk. And It was professionally done. He's a great physician. He knows exactly what he's doing. He withdrew the stem cells in a liposuction type technique from my abdomen and then injected them into my hip, and I am 70% better. Now, maybe I need some injected up here, but the point is that I walked in here without using my cane, and before, every step hurt. Every step hurt on my left hip until, well, it took a few months for that to take effect, but it's interesting to me that it continues to make improvement. Now, there are people around here that do stem cells. I would be cautious. I like the fact that Ken Mautner is associated with Emory University, and he's not a profit-making whatever. It is, by the way, out of pocket. Your insurance does not cover stem cells yet, even though it ought to. And what would I do if my knee needed a problem? I'd go right back to Ken Mautner and have stem cells put in. So knees, hips, whatever. Then, of course, there's a time and a place for surgery. And surgery is when the situation cannot be improved. I was headed towards hip replacement surgery, which I had concerns about because that hip had been operated on twice before. Twice in the sense that I had a fractured hip in 1991 that was fixed with nails. 2 years later, that was opened up and the nails were removed. And then everything was, so to speak, hunky-dory until March of 2017, which eventually became bothersome enough that I went to Atlanta in November of 2017 and had the stem cells injected. So I'm a strong supporter of that. There's a guy in New York City by the name of Einhorn, E-I-N-H-O-R-N, and he's doing stem cells. So, and he came from Boston. I think he's a classy guy. He wasn't interested in doing mine. I think that was a function of my age. So anyhow, enough of that. You can go to Einhorn, you can go to Mautner at Emory, and if you need referrals or further information, contact my office. Breathe, drink, eat, exercise. I have developed an exercise program which is based on a demonstration that I saw by Shaun T. I've shown it before, but basically imagine these are my legs or your legs, and what you do is I have people buy 3-pound neoprene covered weights, and I'm very specific about that. The neoprene that feels like felt, not the smooth, shiny kind. And you march back and forth only a few feet, back and forth, back and forth. And then you do the same thing side to side. And then you squat down part way with the 3-pound weights, and you're doing this as you're marching front to forward and backward, the cross-country ski action. And then you do this as you're going side to side, and then you're going like this when you do, or like this when you're doing your squats. Now, I have carpal tunnel, so I don't do push-ups. Well, that's not true. I do push-ups on my bed at nighttime by making a fist like this and going straight down like that. That way I don't have to go like that, which would compromise my carpal tunnel. And so there's 4 different exercises. Now, the thing I think about the weights is you want to exercise until you make yourself somewhat short of breath. Not uncomfortably, just a little bit short of breath. And now there are some people who do so much exercise that they never get to short of breath. That's fine too if they're doing so much exercise. They walk up a flight of stairs, they're not short of breath. Some people, 2 flights, 3 flights, 10 flights. If you can walk up that and not get short of breath, that's certainly adequate, and you don't need to make yourself short of breath. By the way, stair climbing is wonderful exercise as long as you're careful and you don't slip and fall. Slips and falls are one of the big things that is going on in medicine as the population ages. As people get older, they do become a little more unsteady. The neural networks don't quite work as efficiently as they used to, and patients tell me this, that when they bend over, there's sort of the tendency to keep on going, or when they stand up, they feel a tiny little bit faint. Some of that is due to the medicines that they're on for high blood pressure, which paralyzes the reaction of their blood vessels to compensate for the change in position, which is supposed to occur. the blood vessels are supposed to squeeze down. When you go from lying down, the blood vessels are supposed to react when you go from lying down to sitting up, or when you go from sitting up to standing up. And there's a whole bunch of reflexes involved in that, but basically the main thought process is, how do you continue to send blood to the brain? Perfusion of the brain. And the way you do that is you squeeze the blood vessels everywhere else so that the heart can pump the blood and raise the blood pressure so that the brain gets its perfusion. You know, when you go to the weddings and so on and people pass out or get sick or whatever, what you do is their problem was they were not perfusing blood to their brain. So the brain said, fall down so we can get some blood to your brain. And what you're supposed to do for those people is lift their feet up. I'm not saying everybody who passes out at a wedding or a celebration of some kind has vagal syncope, which is vagus nerve. Passing out is syncope. But that is the usual, and the correct thing is to raise the blood pressure of that person by lifting up their legs and draining the blood out of the legs back into the circulation. Obviously, some tea or some chicken broth would also be a help, but when they're first down, the key thing is to get their head down and to get their legs, head down, legs up. All right, now breathe, drink, eat, exercise, and that's it. Now back to decency. I was going to work entirely off my cell phone today. By the way, this is a Note 8. It is not set up for 5G when it comes. I'm very concerned about this thing with Huawei, the Chinese telecom company that was going to do 5G across the United States. I don't know what our alternatives are, but the United States better get cracking and come up with its own system. I do think that it's entirely correct that we do not want the Chinese putting in our 5G system, and it is their pattern to take whatever they can get that is of value to them. China has clearly in its mind that it wants to be number one. And the way to do that is put down number one in part. They have been taking our technology. You may say, this is not true. Silverstein's on a political rant. Hey, say what you want. To me, it's common sense. What you get from me is my perspective, and my perspective is built on information and intuition, like everybody else. And my intuition is the Chinese government is not to be trusted, and that they will take our technology as they have all along, to which all previous presidents have bowed down, bent over, allowed China to do this. Maybe complained a little bit, but they still allowed to do this. At least we are standing up. You may think I'm a Trump supporter. That's not exactly the case. I look at the reality of the circumstance. Some things he does are right. Some things he does are wrong. And I'm glad to tell you about both. But I think his handling of China and Mexico is correct. 5 minutes. Okay. Why don't I get back to complaining about taxes here in West Hartford? No, that's not what I'm here to talk about. Okay, I want to talk about John Adams. John Adams. A general dissolution of principles and manners will more surely overthrow the liberties of America than the whole force of the common enemy. Boy, do I wish I could write like that. That is so beautiful. You may say, that's old-fashioned writing. It's almost unintelligible. It's beautiful writing. You ever read Shakespeare? My gosh, you ought to read his writings. They are so phenomenal. Anyhow, what that says is a general not being mannerly will overthrow the liberties. What I see now is violence. I see violence on both sides. I see more from my fellow Democrats than I see from the Republicans and independents. It is time for Democrats to simply be decent. Nancy Pelosi saying that Trump should not be impeached, he should be in prison, is disgusting. That is not mannerly. You know what mannerly is? That's when you're simply kind and decent to people. If somebody disagrees, fine, let them disagree. If they say they're a Trump supporter, fine. Let them be a Trump supporter or let them be a Cory Booker supporter. No need to get angry at all. No need to get anger is out of control in the United States. It is indecent. When I talk to my friends, there's no anger. People should be friends and friendly. Good morning, how are you? Hope your day is going well. And you may say, well, you can't always be that way. I understand, but you better do it as much as you can. 3 minutes. Let me read it again. A general dissolution of principles, there are rules, principles. A general dissolution of principles and manners will more surely overthrow the liberties of America than the whole force of the common enemy. All right. That is about decency. Next, anger, decency. Decency, not anger. You know what decency is. Oh, I think I mentioned this. Did I? Low-cost renewable energy is incredibly expensive. Kansas and South Dakota both have gone what we might call clean energy. Energy costs are skyrocketing in those states. It is 7 times more expensive to purchase energy in Kansas, from the article I read. Somebody just texted me. I agree, Kara. Okay. 7 times more expensive in Kansas. That can't be true. Energy production costs have gone up 7 times. And you may say, well, they have to install all those windmills. They have to build all those solar farms. Yes, that's true. But you just need to be cautious what you ask for, because what you're asking for is generally further taxation. All right. Global warming. What's this about global warming? New study notes no support for global warming. What's that one about? Okay, there's a journal, Nature, which is one of the top science journals, that global ocean temperatures have risen 0.1 degrees Celsius in the last 50 years. Now, I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it's not true. It's an article I just got today, but it might be true. All right, I didn't get very far. Let's see. Here's one on nutrition. I have 1 minute. All right, for some reason it's not coming up. All right, that's it. Good day and God bless you all. I hope you enjoyed the program. I hope you didn't find it angry. I'm Looking Over 4-Leaf Clover is the only song I know. Zippity Doo Dah. Go look that up. Song of the South. What a happy, happy song. Sing a happy song every day. Good day and God bless you all. I am H. Robert Silverstein, MD, for the Preventive Medicine Center and West Hartford Cable Access TV. Decency, not anger.